Hello and welcome. This video is going to explore Ableton shortcuts for advanced users so that you can improve your workflow. Even if you're not an advanced user, hopefully you'll find some of this useful. Now heading over to Ableton. If you click on the help section up here, you can see read the live manual. I've already got it open. On page 797, you can see live keyboard shortcuts. So what I've done is I've highlighted this entire section based on a color scheme which I've developed as seen on screen now. So what does it mean? It means purple is not really relevant for this video because it's not really that advanced, or it's to do with clips or push stuff or whatever. Green means most people are going to be familiar with them, especially if you use Ableton for a while. Red means these are very good, but the golden ones are the ones I'm going to talk about in this video. These are the golden nuggets, which I want to explore and explain to you. So let's move on to the first one, shall we? Toggle between device and clip view. As you might know, device view is where your devices are. So here I've got operator open, and clip view is when you click on a clip and you can edit the notes. And the easiest way to switch between them is to double click on the clip view or to double click on the track here, which opens the device view. Now the more advanced way, which you might already know as well, is to go to the bottom right here and to click between them like this with your mouse. This is the device view and this is the clip view. If we select it, you can see. But there's an even easier way, which is Shift and Tab. So say, for example, you're editing this clip up here, moving stuff about, but you quickly want to see the clip view at the bottom. Shift and Tab, and then you can go back to your device view. So you don't actually have to move your mouse down here all the time. You can just stay up here, do your business, Shift Tab, and switch between it that way. So moving on to the next one, hide/show info view, which is Shift ? On both operating systems. The info view is extremely useful, especially if you're learning Ableton, but also for advanced users. I still keep learning stuff with it. You just hover your mouse above devices or anything and you can learn about its functionality. And now you might already know that this bottom left arrow is going to close or open the info view. Very useful if you want more real estate in your device view. But what if I told you there's a simpler way? Shift ? Moving on, we have hide/show inputs and outputs, which is Command-Alt-I on Mac and Control-Alt-I on Windows. Now you might already be familiar with Command-Alt-B, which is to hide the browser and open it, and Command-Alt-L to open up the detail view at the bottom. These are very useful for manipulating your real estate. I find that less people are familiar with Command-Alt-I, which hides the inputs and outputs. I think it's very useful for that extra little space here because we don't actually use the inputs and outputs that often. If you think about it, you only really have to use it at the beginning of your session or occasionally throughout when you're changing the inputs and outputs. But I don't really use it that often, so I can keep it off the majority of the time and I have so much more space, especially for the arrangement view. And here it's in the session view, it's useful as well because you can see more of your clips if you have a lot of them. You can see a lot more of them if you have it turned off, as opposed to like this, you can see half of them. So I find that very useful. Now moving on to the next section, this would have been very useful to know a long time ago. Unfold all tracks, which is Alt-U in both operating systems. So if you go to arrangement view, this is particularly useful. So Alt-U opens up all of the tracks if you want to get a quick overview of your project, and then you can see all of them again. And say if you group something, it also minimizes the group and then opens it for you. So I find that very useful. Now the next one is scroll display to follow playback. Command Shift F on Mac and Control Shift F on Windows. So I didn't notice for a while, but Ableton, just like Logic and all the other DAWs, has the function to follow your playback. So if you zoom in here and press Command Shift F, there you go. So let's say we've got a decently long clip here, and we want to follow what the clip is doing. Just Command Shift and F, and it will follow it just the same way as it would in arrangement view, as you can see down here. Moving on, the next section is in grid snapping and drawing, and this is the final section I want to talk about. These have generally to do with the grid and global quantization. On Mac, if you press Command and you press any of the numbers on the top, these will be the shortcuts. And in Windows, it's Control and the numbers on top. What does the grid actually mean? So the grid is these lines that you can see in Ableton. The lines are turned on as adaptive right now, so they change. But let's say we want to narrow them. I just created more lines. Let's say I want to widen. That's just Command 2. I can keep widening them. And if you look at this number in the bottom right of the arrangement view, you can see it changing. That's as wide as I can make it. And I can go to 1/256th. So that's how you can widen and narrow your grid manually, as opposed to just having it be adaptive. You can also turn on a triplet grid if you'd like, which is Command 3. And as you can see now, it is made up of triplets. So for example, let's go to a whole bar here. 3, 3, 3, 3, and you can turn it off. And now it's 2, 2, 2, and 2. Command 4 is a snap to grid. So let's say you have a clip. Right now it is snapping to the grid. As you can see, if you zoom in, it will snap at a finer definition. And if we zoom out, it will go just to whichever bar we take it to. If we press Command 4, snap to grid is turned off. This is very useful for when you don't want something to be in time. Let's say you want to turn off the zoom adaptive grid. So that's the next one, which is fixed/zoom adaptive grid, Command 5. It's turned off now, and it's going to remain at 1/16th down here. We turn it on now, and it's going to become adaptive again, and it's changing. So you would not have to manually narrow or widen it in this mode. Whereas in this mode, unless you want to stay in 1/16th, which as you can see is quite small when we zoom out, we would have to widen it using Command 2. So I like to keep mine on with Command 5. That makes it easier, but it's good to know that you can turn it off and you can manually change it. Okay, so we are now moving to the final tip in terms of shortcuts, which can be found in the very last section in grid snapping and drawing. Okay, so we're now at the last section, which is global quantization. And before we get into it, I have to explain what global quantization is. So I'm here in a session view live performance set. Now, global quantization can be set here. And it's great for session view, and I think it's something that really sets Ableton apart from the other DAWs, because say for example you set it to 1 bar. If you now, let's go to 170 jungle. If you now play this and you want to restart it, it'll restart at the next bar. So restart now, and it restarted. But let's say Let's say you want a snappier restart. You just change it to, for example, a quarter, and it will be much quicker in changing. Let's say an eighth of a bar. And now you can change between them. And so that's what these shortcuts are. I think they're great because you could potentially even perform with them. On Windows it's Control again, and on Mac it's Command. So Command 6 for 16th note, and then it gets incrementally larger up to Command 9, and then Command 0 is quantization off. So let's try and perform with this, shall we? Make it smaller.
Sick for the rim shots, can't got no mic bombs. In the headspace, boom when the bass drops. Basic music, politics, essentially boom when the bass drops. Basic music, politics, essentially never forget it. One with the bass sound, two with the inner fire. Always gonna blaze it out, fade it loud, mate. In the modern boy, I can't know fade away. Society is missing more warriors. Listen to the voice that's calling ya. Sick for the rim shots, can't drop no mic bombs. In the headspace, boom when the bass drops. Basic music, politics is.
You can switch between the bass now. If we make it a bit bigger, a bit smaller. That's a small enough increment to introduce some nice changes in the bass, but still keep it in time. You can change the drums this way as well. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will include the highlighted manual that I showed in the description so you can check it out for yourself or potentially do your own highlighting. And that's it. Till next time.